Hey everyone, Alex here, and today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things in the world, which is thrift shopping, especially here on the island of Okinawa. In this video, I'll go over some chain stores to look out for. I'll also talk about where I would go to look for vintage furniture and Americana type of antiques. I'll talk about some more boutique type of stores, especially in the Naha area, and then I'll also give you a couple stores where you really need to dig to find those treasures. Throughout this video, I'll also just share some little things that I've gotten along the way so you can get an idea for what's here and what it costs. I haven't been to every thrift store on Okinawa, obviously, but I've been to a lot of them, and I think that it's a lot different than thrifting in mainland Japan. I think that there's obviously a lot more stuff up there, but here it's unique because of the US population that's been here since the 50s. So you will find a lot of really interesting Americana type of antiques from that era, as well as some really good mid-century modern stuff if you're patient enough to look for it. Some things that I just always look for in general are handmade pottery, especially with a signature on the bottom. I also look for Ryukin blown glass, which is a really popular thing here in Okinawa, and if you don't mind mixing and matching, you can get a lot of things pretty cheap. I also pop by the kitchen section to see if there are any Le Creuset items, and I always look through the t-shirts if I have time to find some t-shirts with like funny sayings in English on them. I'll show you some later. Let's start off by talking about chains to look for. The first one I'm going to talk about is actually my favorite. It is Mangosuko, and it's like the Don Q of thrift stores. It's just really chaotic and loud, and oh, I just love it so much. In general, I really like them because they're really big, they always have parking garages, and they separate out the clothes by brand. One of the downsides is that things there are a little bit pricier as compared to like a Second Street or a Hard Off, but if you donate things to there, they do give you coupons. So sometimes I strategically donate things over time just so I can keep getting coupons to spend that day when I'm there. Each Mangosuko has like clothing, designer bags, home decor, electronics, crane machines, sports equipment. They have a spicy section, if you know what I mean. They got it all. So there are 3 Mangasukos on the island. The one in Awase has all the stuff I mentioned. I don't go there super often, but I do remember them having a big sports section and a pretty big glass section. Moving on, the Mangosuko in Urusoe is my personal favorite. They always have a really good mix of things in the home decor section, and they do have a little Americana section with a lot of vintage Coca-Cola stuff and toys and dishes and things like that. The one in Naha is pretty close to the airport, and I think it's the biggest, or at least it feels like it's the biggest. They have a really good home section, and they have specifically a lot of pottery there, I feel like, and a lot of good sized vases for pretty cheap. Now, just for reference, let me show you a couple things that I found at Mangosuko over the last couple of years. First, a kokoshi doll. It is stamped on the bottom, which is something that I'll always look out for. I know I've looked it up before of exactly where it's from, but I couldn't tell you right now, I don't remember. I think I got this one for 1,200 yen, which is a pretty good size. I think that's a good deal. I also am a sucker for vases. It is a problem. I got this one at Mangosuko. It's marked on the bottom, Flavia Montelupo, Italy. And if you see something that says Italy on it, you should probably get it. When I looked it up online, it said that it was a Londi Aldo or Potosi, or I'm not sure if those are both the same things, but I know that I had to get it, and I think I got this one for around $40. I had a coupon. I've also got this vase from there. I believe that it is also Italian, so I think that it was like 2,000 yen. I had to get it. I've also gotten some more like definitely Japanese handmade pottery types at Mangosuko as well, and this one was signed at the bottom, and I think it's a beautiful neutral, and I really like this texture on the side. For some glass I've gotten there, I have this like beautiful blue bowl that is hand blown, or at least like it has the marking on the bottom, so I really like this one for the kitchen. Mangosuko, especially the one in Urusoe, does have a good amount of antiques, and I found this cast iron teapot that is Japanese, and I know that there are some brands that are really expensive and nice. I'm not totally sure if this is one of those, but I need to do some more research on it, but it's a lovely sculptural piece and it's very heavy, so I think that that's good. I think I only got this for 2,500 yen as well. Good deal. Lastly, I'm always finding Le Creuset at Mangosuko, and I have to buy it when I see it. It's just like an impulse buy. Like for example, I got this set like brand new basically for only $60. I got this teapot, I think for 8,000 yen. A little bit ago, I found a tagine there. I just saw that it was Le Creuset. I've never used one before, but it was only $25 and I had to buy it. And now I have an excuse to look up a bunch of new recipes and learn how to cook in it. Mangosuko usually does have a really good golf section, so I have also gotten a push cart there. I know Will's gotten a couple clubs as well. Definitely good to just check out everything when you're in there. The next chain to look out for is hard off. So there are hard offs, book offs, hobby offs, and house offs. These stores are a little bit more like a Goodwill experience as compared to Mangasuko. I mean, they still have their theme song playing over the loudspeaker, but it's definitely like a little more chill in there. One thing about these stores also is that they normally have a section of broken things. So for example, I got an old Polaroid camera for like 500 yen that in my brain someday I'm going to figure out how to fix it. We'll see. But if you're looking for old computers or like little things like that, you could definitely go to a hard off and get some really cheap stuff. I'll briefly go over each one on the island. So the one in Naha is mostly electronics, cameras, gaming stuff, and musical instruments. I didn't find anything I wanted in there. The hard off in Jinnawan is my favorite with home goods. It does have a small selection of designer bags, lots of kitchen appliances, some furniture, sports section. And then on the second floor is all the technology and broken technology, instruments, and some records if I remember correctly. I actually don't think that I've been to the house off or the hobby off on the island, but they're definitely on my list. Now I'm gonna do a little show and tell of things I found at hard off. I found some really good Ryukin glass there, so I got 8 of these, and I think they were like 700 or 800 a piece, I wanna say. I also got this little guy, and I was so excited when I found him and I Googled it and learned that it is a Japanese folk craft. Really cute, colorful little guy to put on a bookshelf. I also got this hand-blown glass fish at a hard off. I was really hoping that it was Murano glass, but when I did more research on it, I found that this is actually Soviet Union era. You can tell by the eyes, they're just really a little bit janky, and it was the thing to have in your house, I guess, during the Soviet Union, so I think that's a fun little story. The next chain I'm going to talk about is Second Street, and this one is definitely the most like a Goodwill to me. It is just very straight to the point, thrift store type of place. They have these all over Japan, and they have a mix of designer bags, clothes, and home goods, and sometimes some furniture and decor. This is where I normally go to look for t-shirts because a lot of the time they're just 500 yen each, which is like really cheap right now, like $3 to $4. So let me just show you some examples of what I mean when I say like funny shirts that are in English. I've got this one that says, "Be the reason, best ever." That's it. I got this one that I wear to the gym. It says, "May the bridge I burn light the way." Very inspirational. One of my favorite karaoke shirts, like realizing stuff. I also love to get them as gifts, whether or not people actually like them, I don't care. I just always send them to my friends. These are some that I'm gonna send away soon. This one that says, "Best friend forever, hot and tasty, hot chili seasoning, best noodle forever, noodle boys." So that's sick. I've also got this one that's like delicious, cool orange, and then the back has like full paragraphs about orange juice. Amazing. Look at that kid. Love it. This one, "Whoever aware of his own failing." That's it. So Second Street, great place to find shirts. Definitely recommend going through the racks of the t-shirt section and just seeing what you can find. Okay, the last chain store that I'm going to talk about in this video is called Re-OK, and there are only 2 of them on island that I know of. I really like this store because of the tiered pricing system. So when something's been there for a couple of weeks, the price goes down, and you can see on the like sticker on the piece of furniture when the price will go down on what date. So that's pretty cool. The one in Naha I think was okay. I like the other one better personally. I think that it had a lot more furniture, like couches and tables and decor and things like that. I've only gotten one thing at a Re-OK, and it was this beautiful carved side table with the glass panels, and it was only $17. So you can get some really good stuff in there. So let's pivot and talk a little bit about where I would go to look for vintage, like mid-century modern type of things and Americana type of antiques. For things like this, I'd focus most of my attention on this one stretch of Route 58. Starting first with this store called Phoenix. I haven't been here and I don't know why. It's been on my list forever, but it looks like it has some really cool mid-century modern stuff. Down the street a little bit is Antiques and Vintage Pearl. They have a wonderful selection of furniture and lighting, and I really enjoy walking around here. There is Discovery Stop 58, which is a military surplus store with some random antiques and dishes in there as well. Ragged Glory has been on my list for a long time. It looks like they have tons of mid-century stuff, and I think I tried to drive by here once and couldn't find it, so I hope that it's still there. It looks like USA Furniture sells larger pieces and some random little decor things. Chicago Antiques does have a parking lot about a block away. They have a huge selection of vintage American toys and home goods. This is one place where I did look up a piece of artwork on the wall, and on Etsy in the States is going for like a third of the price. So just look out when you're in there. Now, not on this street exactly, but nearby is one of my favorite vintage stores, and that is called American Wave. They have a really beautiful collection of jewelry, purses, like home goods things, lamps, and it's a little bit pricey, but if you follow them on Instagram, you get 10% off. Let's move on a little bit to some more of those more curated boutique type of stores on the island. Most of the ones I've been to are in Naha, so let's just talk about those. First is Antique Shop Gabe. This guy seems really nice. We were in there a couple weeks ago, and you definitely have to dig to see everything in this tiny little shop. He has some really large handmade pieces that I thought were super interesting. And he has this massive clock type of thing. And I asked him how much it was and he was like, oh, 100. But then I asked him the price of a really small painting. And I think that he also said $100. So I think that his pricing suggests that he might be open to haggling. I'm not super sure. Down the street from Gabe is Fishbowl, which is mostly used clothing. Nearby is also ANKH, which has a beautiful collection of vintage women's clothing. They have a green caftan in there I saw like 2 years ago and I still think about it. Close to there is OTO Vintage Clothing, which looks way more hip. They have a lot of cool graphic tees, band t-shirts, and jerseys. Another store called 20th Century Heights Naha Gallery is down the street, and they have some decor pieces, books, and jewelry. Not antique, but on the same block is CMYK. If you're into anything designy, this is a really cool store to pop into. If you are looking for vintage clothing specifically, I can recommend Antique Culture in the Rycom Mall. They have a really big selection of stuff, and it is very fun to look through it. While most of my secondhand suggestions are in the southern half of the island, there are a couple thrift stores up north, like in Nago, for example, and there is one that I really want to go to again, but you really have to dig. And that store is called, on Google Maps, Glass Floats / secondhand store. It's packed with a lot of like dusty old stuff, and I haven't spent a ton of time in there, but I would love to go back and see what kind of treasures they have. I know it's kind of crazy that I haven't even mentioned finding Japanese antiques here for the most part, and I think that they're kind of hard to come by. I've seen them at Mangasuko and Hardoff sometimes, but for the most part, if I want something specifically Japanese, I'd probably have to go on base. So if you do go on base, there's usually 1 or 2 antique stores next to the Foster BX, and then if you're on Kadena, usually there's a vendor or 2 in there that are selling Japanese specific antiques as well. Anyways, there's my little guide to thrift shopping on Okinawa, and I hope you enjoyed it and that it helps you get started on your shopping adventures. So until then, happy thrifting. Bye.